Your video, I wanted to share a story with you. This happened quite a while back, but I really think it nails the topic you're talking about pretty much. I've always been a believer in the idea that our lives periodically hit kind of an intersection where we have choices to make, and as a result of those choices we go one way or we go another. A long time ago I was a travel agent down in Florida in the United States, and that travel agency used to give all of its agents at all of its offices a trip on a cruise ship every winter. Well, one winter went to go on the cruise, and for some reason on the trip to catch the bus to the ship, I was feeling very flat, almost depressed, and so was my wife, who was not going on the cruise because only the agents could go. And this feeling didn't have anything to do with the fact that I was the only guy going and there was going to be 200 women going as well, because I would behave myself. I did every year. So we sailed across to Nassau in the Bahamas. It would be an overnight over to there, and we would tour Nassau and come back, and that would be overnight, and that would be the weekend, and then I'd take the bus back home, and I'd done it several times. So the next morning we arrive. Nassau is not all that. It's straw market and a few restaurants, a few shops, and once you've been there a couple of times, you've seen everything. They have a botanical garden that's quite pretty. I've done that. Architecture's pretty. I've done that. I'd ate in all the good restaurants. Not much else. I had a camera with me, and up on the mountain was a really pretty pink hotel. It looked like it had probably been built back in the 20s when they were building these beautiful luxury motels or hotels, I guess. And it was deserted. It had closed years and years before, and the jungle had partially taken it over. So I decided I would take my little camera and go up there and shoot some pictures, and it would be really cool. So that's what I did. And I walked up toward the motel or hotel, and down the brick driveway, which is now overgrown, plants growing up through the bricks. And I looked in the front lobby, and everything, of course, was broken, and trash piled up in the corners and whatever. And I didn't feel confident walking in there. So I walked around the front of the building, and a bunch of coconut palms and vines and stuff everywhere. And all the coconuts were broken open, which I thought was unusual. And I went around the side of the building, and there was a tennis courts, and the tennis courts had trees growing out of them. They were clay courts, and no one had played tennis on these in maybe 20 years. It was real obvious. But the nets were still there, and the markings were still there. And I was looking back at the building, and there were literally palm trees growing through the roof of the building, and it was just awesome to take pictures of this thing. And all of a sudden I realized that there was a man standing there, and he came towards me, and he asked me if I had some money to spare. Natural reaction on my part was no, I didn't, because I detest panhandlers. And before I knew it, he was on top of me, and he had a knife to my throat, and he told me he was going to kill me if I didn't give him some money. And I realized that I had gotten myself out of sight of the road. So we began a macabre dance as I was spinning around in a circle, him with the knife in my throat, digging into my pockets, and me trying to stop him while I dug out my wallet to give him what little money I had. I dropped my wallet on the ground, and he had to reach for it. And there was only $5 in it. He took my rings from me. And after he had all my money, all my jewelry, I began to talk with him. And he started telling me how he had lost his job and couldn't find another job. And he was hungry. And he needed the money for food. And he looked starved. And how he had been eating the coconuts. And that's what I had seen when I came in. And sleeping in the old hotel. And that he didn't want to rob me. But he had gotten so hungry that that was all he could do. And then he gave my jewelry back to me. And he gave my money back to me. And then I freely gave my money back to him. He escorted me back to the street. And I walked back to the ship, knowing that I had passed the nexus and taken the path where I lived, and that there maybe was a path where I didn't. There have been a lot of nexuses in my life. There's been times when I went to a doctor where if I hadn't, I wouldn't have made it another couple of weeks. There's been things that I've done where if I had done something different, somebody would have lived and they died because I did something. So I share your guilt. I know how you feel. Every decision we make affects someone. Some physicists will tell you that there is a thing called the multiverse, and that there is a separate universe created every time we can make a decision. And in one, there's the universe where you made the decision, and in another, there's a universe where you made the opposite choice. I don't know about that. I feel there's a destiny for each of us. I feel there's a purpose for each of our lives. I feel that there is a guiding hand because I've seen it. I know there's a reason we're here. I don't want to go into it now. It's too deep in theology. I feel that it's right that you wonder. I feel this is right that you seek it. And I don't know if I covered all your questions or not, but that's my feeling on all this. So there's that. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.